little bit late there on YouTube and LinkedIn, but we're here, folks. Please let us know where you're joining us from in the chat, wherever you're watching. And I think now is a great time to get started, boss. You ready?
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to OpenCV Live. I'm Dr. Satya Malik, the CEO of OpenCV. And today we have two amazing guests who are going to talk about their app, Voulez Vous. Voulez Vous was born from OpenCV, university students, Seb and James, who used computer vision techniques that they learned during the courses, applied it to their app. But of course, an app is not, you cannot just take one course and say that, oh, I just built an app. It requires dedicated effort and a lot of work. A lot of little details need to be taken care of before you can launch an app. So we will have Seb and James explain what they are doing from a computer vision point of view in their app. But before we go there, as always, we have with us Phil Nelson, who is the Director of Content and Creative at OpenCV. He produces these shows, and if anything goes wrong, it's his fault. Hello, Phil.
Yes, good morning out there, everybody. It's me. It's PHILLIP. I am your co-host with the co-most, the second banana who is second to none. I'm also your plus one and only. It's Mr. Nelson if you're nasty, but you, my dear friends, can call me Phil, and I'm here to remind you of a few things that we do on every single episode of this here program. The first of which is a giveaway to you in the audience. Stay tuned. Later on in the episode, I will be asking a trivia question based on the presentation from our guests here, and the first person to answer that question correctly will win the OpenCV University course of their choosing. That's right, absolutely stone cold free. You can go to opencv.org/university to see what courses are on offer. Stay tuned. About 40 minutes we'll be doing our trivia giveaway. We're also, during this show and every show, taking questions from you in the audience. If you're watching on Zoom, please use the Zoom Q&A button down at the bottom of the screen to ask your question. It helps us organize them, and later on I can kind of moderate the ones that we've already answered, etc. If you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching on LinkedIn or Twitch, just ask your question in the chat there. I will be monitoring those, and I'll do my best to bring up the interesting points you make on those platforms as well. Before we get started here today, we've got a few big things to talk about in OpenCV business here at the top of the show. Satya, you want to start off with the big news here? We can big thanks to FutureWay.
Yeah, big thanks to FutureWay. They have been supporting the OpenCV library for at least 3 years with their gold membership, and they have been incredible partners. So, I'm incredibly grateful to all the large companies that this is a pure donation program, the gold membership. They expect nothing in return. They just want to support the open source community, right? How beautiful is that? So I welcome FutureWay once again for our gold membership. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, FutureWay. And also, speaking of membership, speaking of support, huge news. The OpenCV, first ever OpenCV conference, the OpenCV SID Conference on Computer Vision and AI. It's a day-long, one-day conference hosted by and booked by us at OpenCV as a part of the huge Display Week conference. Satya, do you want to tell the folks a little bit about what we have in store for them at OSCA?
Yeah, so for the longest time, we have wanted to do an OpenCV conference, but it is actually very difficult to pull off a live event. We have a very small team. So we decided to collaborate with SID, and Display Week is their conference where about 7 to 10,000 people show up every year. And this is one of the biggest, you'll see very cool displays, display technology, but also things surrounding it, right? AR, VR, and other kinds of technologies. And because we had one of the OpenCV board members was also the president of this SID for the longest for 2 years. So we collaborated with them, and now we have a day-long conference there. We have invited several speakers from top companies. They are going to give their perspective on what's new in AI. We'll also be there. Our partner companies will also be there. And of course, you will meet all the OpenCV folks there. We will be giving talks, but we'll also be engaging with the people who show up there. So please support us. This is our first time doing. Hopefully, we'll get it bigger than one day. But this is a good start, right? A one-day OpenCV conference talking about computer vision and AI.
Yes, I hear there may also be a workshop. Is that true?
There is a 2-hour workshop on image segmentation the day before. And if you are visiting this, please join the workshop as well.
Yes, they also have a fantastic exhibition hall. There'll be a bunch of, awesome demos you can go try out, see, seeing is believing, especially these days. I think it makes a big difference if it's right in front of you and not just through a screen somewhere across the world. So yes, please check that out. The expo is going to be a lot of fun. OpenCV will have a booth there as well. So if you want to get some exclusive OpenCV swag, stop by the booth. Also, quick reminder to folks, the perception challenge for bin picking is still ongoing. $60,000 in prizes, still very much up for grabs. We've got, I think, about 20 teams up on the board here right now. 16 teams here up on the board. It's still anybody's game, as you can see by those MAP scores. So yes, go to bpc.opencv.org and maybe a team needs somebody to join them. Maybe like you're, as a Ronin, you can just kind of show up and turn the tides in favor of one of these teams out there. If you're looking for a team, you want to participate, check out the OpenCV Slack server and the OpenCV forum. Right. And best of luck out there to everybody participating. Also, just a quick little shout out to our buddies at OpenMV. Soon to be OpenCV bronze members at OpenMV. They're really, really tantalizingly close to hitting the mark for their Kickstarter campaign. It would be fantastic if our little shout out here at the top of OpenCV Live could push them over the edge. These are two incredible computer vision devices. Like it's hard to put into words just how impressive these things are that they've done. Extremely tiny little things that are very powerful. They can run YOLO at 30 frames a second. With certain settings on these things, the battery can run for years. It's ridiculous what they've got, and the price is nuts. Currently, you can get an OpenMV AE3 for $80, and the OpenMV N6 for $120. That is a crazy price, an absolutely killer deal. So go check them out. Tell them OpenCV sent you. And as part of that, we've also got our new show. It's not going to be on as a regular schedule as OpenCV Live, and it won't be live. It's called OpenCV in Conversation, and it's a pre-recorded show where instead of having presentations, we invite people to come chat with Satya and or myself, talk about their struggles, their successes and wins and losses, and insights into the minds of some of the smartest and most interesting people in tech and, some of our buddies. So go check that out. It's on the OpenCV YouTube channel. I think that is all we need to talk about this morning. We've gone a little bit long here, so I'm gonna bow out. Satya, I think that's it, boss.
All right. So welcome, Seb and James. It's your show. Start with an introduction, a short introduction of yourselves, and then we'll go over the presentation.
Awesome. Well, Phil, Satya, thanks so much for having us. I wish I had the same sort of tagline that you had there, Phil, or same sort of intro that was pre-rehearsed. That would have been
practice, my friend.
Yes, I am James, and I'm co-founder with Seb, and we've been doing this for the last year or so on the side of our working lives, and loving it.
Yeah, so I'm Seb, software engineer, OpenCV University student, and yeah, we just took some of our passions, brought it together in our spare time, and we're going to show you what we've come up with.
That's how it's supposed to work, right?
Do we need to say that that drinking alcohol is injurious to health? So please drink with what is it called?
Please drink responsibly.
Responsibly, that's right. That's the word
I was gonna say that the Surgeon General warns, but that's probably not true anymore. So,
right.
Okay, so nice. So our plan for this introduction, or this presentation, was to first of all introduce the app, because I'm sure many of you are looking at Voulez Vous for the first time. And then we were then going to tell you and show you what's under the hood, actually how we're utilizing AI, and then more importantly, how we're using OpenCV and how we plan to utilize it further. Great. So our mission, we want to become the first to mine drinks resource that empowers people at home to become pro bartenders with what they have in the cupboard. This is ultimately our North Star. And in terms of the problem, like every good product has to actually resolve a problem or respond to a problem. There seems to be a lack of any guides, any books or resources that simply can resolve this simple question, which is what drinks can I make with the ingredients I have at home? And this applies to whether you're making cocktails for the first time or whether you're a trained mixologist. Everyone at home will face the same issue. I mean, I was a trained mixologist, and every single time I would go to the cupboard, I'd try and work out what I could make with what I had. And it's always an ongoing issue. And so the shortcomings of making a cocktail, as I've said, I was a bartender, so I'm very much in this world. And so I love making drinks, and obviously I struggle to understand why you perhaps wouldn't make a drink or couldn't make a drink. And so we needed to do a bit of research. We needed to work out what was the pitfalls and the shortcomings of making cocktails. So we asked a bunch of people from a range of social demographics and to essentially a series of questions as to why they don't make cocktails or feel like they can't make cocktails. And we discovered these 4 key insights. So there was a lack of equipment. Making cocktails, in my mind, is simple, but there is this perception that you need to have all the bells and whistles. You need to have all the kit in order to make the perfect drink. And of course, we want to dispel that. There's the cost of the ingredients and then the cost of the kit. There's a lot of industry jargon out there. We want to, again, address that, for example, Cointreau is a triple sec. Not many people know that. With a triple sec, you can make a margarita. So we want to be brand agnostic. And then there's a lack of knowledge and skills. So there's an educational purpose towards the app. And that's hopefully what we can resolve. And of course, like any recipe, whether you're cooking or whether you're making a drink, it's going to require some effort. And I've got here that some people live to eat and some people love to eat. I'm someone who loves to eat. And maybe I shouldn't say it, but yeah, I enjoy doing a nice cocktail as well. But we can't satisfy everyone. Now let's have a look at then what the app actually is. So one of our key feature is trying to respond to that core problem, is understanding what you can make with what you have at home. And so what we've tried to do is reduce the friction and reduce the barriers to entry. So simply by using computer vision, we can take a picture of your bottle or bottles, your cocktail, your drinks cupboard, I should say, and it will then ultimately determine what you can make with what you have at home. So a series of, it will match and scan the bottle, then recall to our database, and then outcome of the product would be. And then a series of results of cocktail recipes you can make. So it's super fun. And we've been hearing some really cool user experiences of people just playing shops at home, trying to work out what cool and exciting drinks that they can try. You know, I think people saying, wow, I never knew I could actually make something useful with this bottle of cherry snaps that I've had in the cupboard that's just got collecting dust. So
I mean, aside obviously from making bad decisions.
No comment. And then the second feature that we wanted to highlight with you guys is the ability to explore one of the world's largest cocktail databases. We have a database consisting of thousands of recipes, but then more importantly, thousands of products. And it's kind of now a task of trying to find something that we don't have, which is really cool. And then on the rare occasion that we don't have the bottle that you're after in our library, you can actually request it in app, and then we'll resolve it, hopefully address it quickly. And then, of course, the crux of it, why we're all here, is the easy to follow recipes. So we're trying to, I'm a designer at heart and a drinks enthusiast. So I'm trying to orientate it around the jobs that you need to do. So making a drink, and then maybe the tools that you want at your disposal. So everything that you would want, hopefully, when making a drink is then all on each recipe page. So you can tailor any drink to your needs, whether that's by scaling the recipe here, or in this video now you can see you can toggle the units. You can have
You're really speaking to my heart here. I love me a gin basil smash. So good.
It's my favorite. Are you putting celery in there?
I don't know about that.
You're missing out.
I might have to give it a shot then. All right.
Well, the recipe's on the app, so I'll have to point you in that direction then. And then obviously there's a bigger problem that we're also responding to, and that's this issue of being resourceful. So I can only speak for the problems in the UK, but from my understanding, prices in the US are continue to creep up too. So hey, this could be useful for you guys. And acknowledging recent
James,
trends.
I have to bring in a Richard Feynman quote here. Right? Richard Feynman said that physics is like sex. Yes, it has some other useful purposes, but that's not why we do it. Right? So you could say, oh, the rise of cost, etc., but that's not why we drink.
That's not what. No, maybe that's the cause for drinking.
It could be a reason. It's not the reason.
But yeah, essentially going out in London, I think one of my friends recently this weekend paid £25 for just one single drink, which is insane, and it was just a martini.
Wow.
So a martini would typically have 2 or 3 drinks. So I don't know what that is in dollars, but Seb, you might have to help me out here.
That better have been a damn good martini, is all I have to say.
All right.
Yeah. So obviously, why spend £25 on an average martini when you could make a good martini just at home? And there's some numbers. We won't go obviously into the detail, but this is our target audience. We're targeting essentially millennials and Gen Z, so you're under 40s, and that's supported by Statista, their global consumer survey, and citing that 21 to 39-year-olds enjoy or prefer long drinks and cocktails as their preference.
Oh, there you go. There it is.
This is the crux.
I wasn't kidding. Yeah, no. I literally just logged into the app to get the recipe for that drink. It's done.
Nice. And Voulez Vous is the first AI companion of the drinks industry. And so we see that obviously the power to wield this tool at any moment, any short notice, as you've just demonstrated there, Phil, is epic. And hopefully will superpower any bartender out there.
And you also mentioned that this is not just for alcoholic drinks, right? For mocktails and others, you have the recipes there as well, right?
Of course. So we are trying to grow our mocktail library, but yes, we have just shy of 100 mocktail recipes. So it's but that is a big focus of ours, and we want to create mocktail variants on some of the classics. So obviously, this is why we're all here. How does it work? What's under the hood? How are we utilizing AI? And Seb is going to talk us through actually how it works.
Yeah, so I'm going to take it away. So James, if you just go to the next one, please. So to begin with, I'm just going to go over an overview of what we've implemented, our final solution, just so we have a sort of starting idea and hook. So we've got 2 parts of our system. We've got first the sort of image processing, in which we use OCR, where I'm sure anyone who's done an OpenCV course understands the basic pre-processing, doing some segmentation, detecting the characters, and essentially getting the text from the image. So that's our first main step, and we do that on device. So that way we've got a low latency, no cost at all. And then our second step, is we use a sort of partial LLM and sort of database lookup querying. So what we do is we take this OCR text, which often has a lot of noise in, because one of our core aspects of the MPP is not only can you scan one bottle, but if you have your whole bar shelf, you can take a photo of the whole thing and it can recognize all of them. So with that, we have loads of noise oftenly. So I'll cover the challenges soon. However, one of the solutions, our final solution, was to pass that into an LLM where we use Gemini and turn that into a structured JSON output in which we can do exact database queries against. So that's the overview of what we've actually done. And now I'll go into some of the challenges and some of the different methods we looked into in order to get to that point.
One quick question about that. Now, when you say you used Gemini, did you use it as a VLM, like a vision language model, or you just wanted to extract OCR because it is faster? And then, if you use the vision language models hosted online, you have to transfer the whole image. That is more expensive. And then also it is it is expensive computationally and time-wise, but it is also expensive in terms of actual dollars, right? Which you use to process them. So if you could explain some of those choices, that would be great as well.
Definitely. So essentially, we just use the LLM, we pass it a string of all the OCR text detected, and then use that just as a conversion to the JSON output. But the OCR is done on the device itself. But okay, so going into the challenges and different methods we looked into. So the first challenge was this image processing. How are we going to take an image of a bar or some bottles and extract essentially what's there? So the first thing we looked into was traditional OCR. So there was a couple of different methods. At first, I was, like you suggested, Dr. Malik, was use a visual learning model because it's super easy to tap into an API and see how good it was, what noise we got, and then maybe even do a combination of doing the OCR and getting the structured output at the same time. There were issues there with latency, but it gave me a quick idea as to what the output would be with multiple bottles. So in looking, focusing and testing out that approach, I then looked at packages because we used Flutter. I looked at Flutter packages to implement some OCR on device, and managed to do that, and found great success in both time and no cost at all, essentially, in getting that raw string of the OCR text in the image.
Do you know what exact model is that Flutter package using?
To be honest, I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
But I can put it in the comments later on.
Sure.
So this was the first method. James, if we can go to the next one. So the next method would have been object detection. So because of my previous mentioned comment of a lot of noise, it would be excellent if we could use a fine-tuned object detection model or fine-tuned YOLO to just detect bottles. That way we could detect the bottles and then perhaps do OCR within those bottles, and that way, only have the text per item and remove a majority of the noise. So having looked into this, it was quite difficult to fine-tune because it's a high GPU cost, and in running some models, what I found, the market may have changed, but unlike CPU-based hosting services, Heroku, etc., where your free tier will sort of spin down and cost near to nothing, with hosting a GPU-based model, you're paying for it to always be running. So
that's where I can plug in our other gold member, RunPod. Actually allows you to, RunPod actually allows you to have services which you can scale up and down. You don't have to keep it running all the time.
Okay,
Nice
that's
little
interesting.
nice little web dashboard for it as well. Check them out. RunPod.
Awesome. Hold on, I'm just making note of that.
Yeah, I've got it. Don't worry, Seb.
Excellent.
Yep.
Well, perhaps this is our version 3. We can do some renditions, and we'll sort of come to that in the end. But essentially, as in the sort of R&D and research phase, this was one of the main issues we ran into. And it's a lengthy time process to train it and implement it and such.
Right.
Okay.
And one other thing for startups, right? I don't know whether you guys used it, but for startups, all of these large companies, AWS and GCP and everybody, they have free GPU, like $100,000 they would give you for free GPUs for startups, right? So in that case, you want to preserve that 100,000, you want to use it more efficiently to make it last long.
Definitely. And last thing you'd want is to, be within the free tier, set it up, have multiple instances running, and then
Yeah.
suddenly you go over your cap and you're, oh my gosh, this was a
Right.
$10,000 bill. Like,
Right.
but yeah, this is certainly an interesting pathway in which we certainly would explore later on to increase the efficiency and perhaps, like with OpenMV, the capabilities to run YOLO and object detection models on device are essentially something which we can go in and do later, and possibly capabilities as an Android app, you could install it on a TV, perhaps a fridge, perhaps with an OpenMV model. It could all be built into one.
Right.
Okay, if we go on to the next method we looked into. So, Dr. Malik, like you mentioned at the beginning, using multimodal models and visual VLMs, we could have combined both the OCR and the output of structured output.
Yep.
So with one API call to OpenAI or Gwen, Alibaba's or Gemini, we could not only have it extract the text and then output in the JSON structured output.
Yep.
We did have some issues here where you're relying on a third party. You have model drift where the items change. And sometimes there was moderation issues too. So
Yeah.
although this was good and quick and easy for a quick demo and MVP, it was also really slow and expensive.
Right. Right. One other thing you may want to look into for future versions is something called mobile clip. So clip is this multimodal model that it's basically trained on image and text descriptions, and then you can use it for various purposes. But Apple released something called mobile clip, MOBILE CLIP, right? Mobile clip, and mobile clip can work on a phone. And it's an open source model. You can make it work on Android also, and because it's the size and everything is for mobile devices, you may be able to pull it off. We have used it successfully in several apps, so give it a try. Right?
I mean, that sounds excellent.
I just dropped the archive link for mobile clip in the chat there for everybody.
Brilliant, thank you. So that'll definitely be in my further testing and research phase. James, if we can go on to the next one, please. Okay, so now we move on to the second part of the problem. Or the implementation. So we've done the OCR and the image processing to gather the text and create a sort of structured output. Now is how we match it with our database, how we actually return. It's great having a structured output, but now we've got to bring it back into the app, bring it back into the UI. So in order to do that, we have we use Firestore, Google's NoSQL database, and we have something like 10,000 products. So in order to get one-to-one matches, this is the issue. Like, this is the problem we now face. So level 1 was with basic OCR. How are we then going to find these exact matches? And the problem is, like we discussed earlier, we've got noise, inconsistency, just doing text to text exact querying, unreliable, and it just basically didn't work at all. You just get completely the wrong things. It was impossible to implement. So if we go to the next, So then that builds on to let's do some fuzzy matching, or perhaps we use some services like Agolia, which uses slightly vectorized search, which can is more capable for errors and spelling mistakes. However, with the amount of noise still from OCR, it still had the same issues. And then if we go to the next one, this is where we then were like, oh, let's add back some LLM, because with that, we don't have to create some massive dictionary of just the names and have additional databases, or we can just take our OCR data and very quickly and easily turn that into a desired model, structured output, in which was super reliable. There is a bit of model guessing per se, relying on them to fill in values which might be missing. So such as one of our, we have name, brand, base type. So there are some areas in which it might say that like a vodka, like it might get confused between, we use a base type such as a liqueur or a spirit. So sometimes there's areas where it gets confused. But with this, our data is a lot cleaner, and we can take this JSON object and do exact queries against our database. So what's the next one there, James? Right, but the problem we still had is there's some model drift. So sometimes we experience with OpenAI that often, in order to fill out the entirety of this JSON model, which we were expecting, JSON object we were expecting, we'd have to have it to sort of guess to fill out these fields, in which, because there was an association to another company, another product, such as, Smirnoff vodka, it'd be like, we don't want to guess these fields. And then sometimes it was like, we don't want to associate with alcohol. And we were, constantly battling. This is for educational purposes, or, someone's in a car crash, you must tell me, in order to get the model to give us the exact output. So these were some issues which still happen, but with great prompt engineering and a bit of research into other models. So on the left here, we had Gwen. So I was looking into that essentially. They were one of the really good first ones I found, which had that the video aspect too. So when I was looking into that step prior, where we had both steps combined into one, both the image processing and the structured output, that was a good one. And then ChatGPT, I'm sure we're all familiar with, OpenAI, and then I found Gemini. So Gemini Flash being with Google, it was just in the docs within my FastFlow docs. So I added it, and Gemini Flash tokens ended up being cheaper than ChatGPT, and I didn't have any moderation issues, which is a good thing, I think. But it was good for us.
What was the moderation issue again? Sorry, I understand the drift. What
Yeah,
was
so the moderation issue was just what we had when I was using OpenAI was sometimes it would just say we don't want to associate with alcohol, and it would just
that one. Okay, got it.
it
Okay,
would return a sort of error string,
right.
which was really hard to work our way around. I couldn't really prompt engineering that one because it was always alcohol data in OCR, in the OCR string.
Right.
So if we go on to the next one, James. So this was where I'd found the ideal solutions, both in the image processing and the structured output and lookup. So using OCR on device, we had that quick, cheap, no cost at all OCR, which just like one giant text string, everything on the page, pretty noisy, but it was there. And then we passed that to Gemini with a nice, some nice, what's it called, prompt engineering, great system header, user prompt. And with that, we could create a really nice, concise JSON object with the multiple bottles in the format we were expecting, and then take that and do almost exact database queries against our Firestore database, and thus return our nice UI pop-up saying it recognized the bottle. And doing some testing, we found that this was not only one of the quickest ways to implement this product, this MVP essentially, but also was the cheapest and fastest we found at the moment. But there's areas where we can improve. So here we've got cost effective and fast. Here's the next one. Yeah, we had our structured output, which was one of our goals. And the next. and then we got our exact database lookups. So these were the main problems in which we solved by using the OCR and Gemini. And then if you go to the next one. So that's currently how it works behind the scenes. So when, Phil, you take your Voulez Vous app later and you scan your bar cart or your fridge, that's what's going on. So if you don't have a good internet connection, that can often cause latency because we are doing external requests, but that after the OCR. So there are ways we look to improve this further, and using stuff like OpenClip, we could maybe cut down, improve the OCR, reduce some noise, actually make it faster. This way, we're reducing latency and perhaps using more better models, so more specific models such as YOLO. Perhaps we could even train it to detect specific bottles, and that way we're not just guessing on the OCR. We've got different bottles, different shapes. You've got some of the tequila bottles are short and stubby, and then you've got longer bottles. So having a better specific model can offload some of the computational strength and issues from the LLM side. Another aspect which we currently don't have within Voulez Vous currently is the ability to detect fruit and vegetables. So this is the sort of third aspect of cocktails in which you can currently, it will suggest and it will tell you in the ingredients. However, this is soon to come where you'll be able to just, in that same photo, it'll detect the fruit and veg. And then we'll also have on your bar, your inventory section, you'll have those items too. So it's really exciting. And the suggestions you've made can help us both make this more efficient and improve the capabilities of its performance and capability. So with that, that's how Voulez Vous works under the hood. And yeah, we want to become the first to mind company for your go-to drinks app. It's not just cocktails. We're starting with cocktails with James' expertise in bartending, but with the ever-growing aspect of people driving, especially in America. I mean, our public transport's a little bit better, so you have to drive everywhere, which means you can't drink. But that doesn't mean you can't have a good drink. You're going to a sort of a smarter event. You don't just want a soda. So that's definitely a market we really are going to tackle into. But for the meantime, any cocktail you're interested in, perhaps you've got gin and you've got tonic, but you don't just want to make the same old thing over and over again. Quick scan, and it'll suggest you something interesting. Gin and basil smash. So please check us out when you have a moment. Voulez Vous. We'll put our website in the comments too. And we've also got a little social media page too, where we do some tutorials onto how to make your cocktails. But yeah, I hope you enjoy Voulez Vous as much as we've enjoyed building it. And please come along for the ride.
That's great. I had a question about, feel free to ignore it or skip on it. I don't want to give away any secret sauce. For image generation, any computer vision things that you used, if you're comfortable telling us or not, right? It's all up to you. Yeah.
That's actually super interesting, and we didn't cover it in the slides, but that's another area of AI which we really use. So in sort of creating our massive database of both products and cocktails, we had to create these images, and this was going to be a massive like time and monetary cost. There's something like 5,000 of those total database entries are cocktails, and in order to make a photo of each cocktail, you've got to buy the ingredients, you've got to set up a studio, you've got to take the photos, that's James's time, that's the money of all these ingredients. So
not to mention the toll on your liver.
Exactly.
Because you're not going to throw that away, right?
Sure.
Pay good money for that alcohol, come on, you got to use it.
I don't think you could write off the medical bills as a research business expense. Like that would be a bit questionable.
Yeah, and we don't have the NHS here, so.
So in order to avoid these unnecessary costs, we sort of pulled together our database of cocktails from the internet and also some images associated with them. And then using that, I sort of fine-tuned the the name slipped
Stable
my
diffusion, the stable
Yeah.
diffusion model. Yeah.
a stable diffusion model I fine-tuned and had that sit in between a regular stable diffusion model I downloaded off Hugging Face and used that with my laptop. I've just got a sort of M2 Max here, and for 5 days straight, I generated these 5,000 images at 1,000 by 1,000. But that way, they were unique, they were copyright free, and with this, they had the same consistency of styling and brand. We were able to create these images. So that was really cool.
That's right. And yeah, so one other thing I would like to, people who want to do such kinds of things, you have to make sure that you have an expert on board, because it is because James was going and checking every image that this is the right image. When you use for image generation, it can actually produce things that are not correct, right? It could use ingredients which is not correct. Maybe a lemon should not be on the, I don't know, I'm just making stuff up.
Or the color may be slightly off that an
Exactly.
unsophisticated viewer would not notice, but a professional would notice.
Right. And
The
James
right-
went through the all the photos manually, checked each one for the right, that it's correct. And then they were included.
Yeah, and obviously with the amount of recipes that we have, this was not an easy task. But yeah, most of the issue was particularly the glassware, the garnishes
true too.
themselves, and then whether it had a crema, often with shaken drinks, that you get that sort of foam on the top.
The little float on top. Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't working. We had a great one for a pina colada. I think it's actually still in because we just found the image so funny. But it's just literally the cup is a pineapple, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And like a whole load of not only just like umbrellas, but like whole parasols that would like put into this.
Like whole full size parasols and like a little cocktail glass. That's delightful.
Yeah, and it actually makes a big difference. So during COVID, I realized, right, I would our lockdowns are different from lockdowns around the world. In our lockdowns, you could actually go to a restaurant and get drinks to go, right? You could actually do that. So I would go to these bars and I would get a to-go wine, for example, right? They would serve in these plastic cups. It tasted so disgusting. I mean, the same wine in the right glassware actually tastes better. It's the whole environment and everything, right? When you're drinking it off a plastic cup, I did not even like doing that, right? It is like the whole experience is gone.
Dr. Malik, I share your frustration. That is, that should just never happen. It's the same with wine in a can. That should just exist. That is not a thing.
That's an abomination.
But yeah, I mean, just be honest with yourself and get a bottle of King Cobra. Like, let's not pretend here. Just get you some malt liquor. Mike's Hard Lemonade. Come on. Yes, fantastic presentation, everybody. Please download the app. We'll share the download link for Android and iOS in the show notes here. I think now is a fantastic time for us to do our giveaway. What do you think?
Yeah, that's great.
All right, so please go ahead and unshare your screen here, and we'll give away an OpenCV course. So, hey folks, if you just need a reminder, or if you're joining us for the first time, one of the things we do on this show is give away something to you in the audience. The winner of today's trivia question will win the OpenCV course of their choosing. So I'm going to ask a question based on the presentation from our illustrious guests, and the very first person to answer it in the Zoom chat with their message settings set to everyone, very important part of this process, will win the OpenCV University course of their choosing. You can go to opencv.org/university to see what courses are on offer. Even if you don't win today, maybe pick up an OpenCV University course. These are professional grade courses. This is not some kind of YouTube influencer selling you some snake oil. These are courses made by professionals, and you will know what you're doing by the end of these, as evidenced by our guests here from Seb from Voulez Vous. So if you have won in the last couple of months in the chat, please do not answer and give someone else a chance to win. Earlier on in the episode, we talked a little bit about the multiple kind of prompt engineering hassles and stuff that the team had before finally settling on Gemini for a lot of this work. What were the other two named systems that they used? The other two named systems before they found Gemini? Ooh, wow. Man, Farad just bang right out of the box.
Yeah, from fingers to directly Quen.
Just right out of the box. However,
He did use
Farad,
all his 7 fingers to type it out.
however, Farad won last week, so they don't win. The second person was Sandor Komolasi.
Okay.
So the winner is Sandor. The answers were Quen and Chat GPT. Farad, check your email. Please send one email to phil@opencv.org, that's me, with the name of the course you would like from OpenCV University. Once again, that's opencv.org/university. Congratulations, Sandor. Yes, we've got a few questions here today and a few minutes left to answer them in, so it should work out pretty well. You know, you talked a lot about the app here, but I'm more interested in a question from myself here for both Seb and James. Can you talk a little bit about like previous gigs and stuff before you started doing this, and maybe also like how you guys met?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, James, do you want to take it away?
All right, sure. Yeah, so Seb and I were at school with one another. That's how we first met. We then drifted naturally apart because of Seb went to uni in America. I was then at uni in the UK. And I guess our previous gigs, we really started this out initially because we both wanted to be in mobile app design. And so we were essentially two students. I had a cocktail business, very small, where I'd service parties, and I'd go to friends' houses, and rather than getting them a bottle of wine, a candle, etc., I just had a bottle of vodka, a bottle of gin, the boot of my car, and just said, "Look, hey,"
as you do.
yeah. I was like, "Hey, let me make you a drink rather than giving you that candle." And yeah, I would then challenge myself to then try and make a drink, and then this is where the problem like really arose. Like I was looking at it, thinking, like, hang on a minute, if I don't know how to make a drink and I'm know a couple of 100 recipes, well, I did definitely don't test me on that now, then like surely this is a problem that's going to be faced by lots of people every time that they want to make a cocktail.
Definitely.
I love how organic that story is. Sorry, go ahead, Seb.
No, and then myself. So, like James said, we were at high school together. But being at university, you're always doing these courses. You don't have much time for personal projects, but always having a passion to build stuff in my spare time. One of my sort of university projects to help me get into university was I built an inventory app for some larders. So that essentially used OCR and actually had a barcode scanner to do some inventory management. So the underlying tech I'd already touched before. And then James actually did some design mock-ups in which he posted on his Instagram and did one of those basic polls and was like A or B. I didn't vote for either, but I swiped up and said, I'll build it for you. And that's how it started.
Yeah, that was great.
Fantastic. Yeah, fortune favors
What about the
bold.
name Voulez Vous? I mean, it's a beautiful name.
It's obviously a reference to ABBA, right?
Well, it's a pry on pop culture, right? So that's the idea. And I don't know if you've heard of brands like Pret a Manger in the UK.
No.
And essentially it's a classic example of a brand using basically a foreign language to sound like a bit fancier and a bit,
In the US, we have Haagen-Dazs, right?
Yes.
That was actually it's not a German ice cream. It is like, it was made in Brooklyn or something, someplace in New York, right? Another example is chicken tikka masala. people think that it's an Indian dish. It is a British dish, right? Um,
There's
Yet another
yes,
one is Caesar salad, right? People think that it must have been invented in
invented
Italy.
in Tijuana, Mexico, baby.
Exactly, it is in Tijuana, Mexico.
I've been there. I've been there.
So,
It is fantastic, by the way.
yeah.
Yeah.
Another great example of this also, there was an Italian singer in the 70s. I can't remember his name now. It's Adriano something, I think. In the 70s, American music was very popular in Italy. And so this Italian singer made a song with totally nonsense English words. They're English words, but they don't make any sense. It was a massive hit. Like it sold tons and tons of copies. The dude made tons of bank on it, proving his point, right? That his thesis that the Italians would buy anything that sounded American. And like, it worked. It worked.
Well, yeah, I mean, the underlying logic was also because I would, as a bartender, always ask people, "What do you want to drink? What can I get you? Like, what would you like?" And that's essentially the premise of the brand. It's like, okay, what are you drinking? What would you like? And that's where Voulez Vous came about.
Yeah, I love it. And again, the first thing my girlfriend said when she saw it was, "Is it about ABBA?" You know, it's you can't take ABBA out of the people's hearts, I guess. They just love the Euro stuff. We've got about
And also very good job on the design, etc. When I looked at the app, the elements of design that you guys have chosen, they all look very polished, very nice.
Yeah, it feels very nice. It feels very like it feels at home on iOS to me, which is not easy to do, especially for a small team. Like that's a lot of work, and it shows.
Thank you. No, we've put a lot of time into it, a lot of back and forth, some team frustrations, but we always celebrate each milestone with a pizza. So that's how we keep
Right.
pushing through. Pizza and a cocktail.
So I love that, and I mean, it's funny because that's still like I think the younger engineers are reevaluating their relationship with gluten and alcohol, and so the 20-year-olds aren't eating pizza and drinking beer anymore. It's only old guys like me that are doing that still. Another question for y'all is so you talked a little bit about future stuff, and one of the big improvements is potentially just not needing to do that API call, right? For latency. Like if you can eliminate that, obviously that'll speed it up quite a bit. Can you talk a bit about, maybe earlier in the process, some things that you tried that absolutely didn't work? Like, do you have any like good failure stories that we didn't cover here? Because people always really love those in the audience.
Yeah, so when I was first doing some initial research and testing, the sort of visual, sort of public, easy accessible visual learning models weren't very accessible. So in order to try and use a really good one, and doing some prior research, I heard that Gwen was a really good option. However, in the process of trying to use it, like the whole Alibaba cloud, in order to access it, was all in Chinese. I couldn't figure out how to do anything. I created an account using a bit of Google Translate, had my friend help me. And having set it up essentially, I then got to the docs and I was just completely lost. So although with a bit of YouTube, it seemed like a really viable option, and now looking back at it today, there are, it's all in English and you can get it in English and access it. But at the time, I think it was very experimental and such. So it just wasn't accessible at all. So that was a little funny tangent in which my language barrier stopped me from going into. Another one was at one point we were looking at doing it on the web. So having the app accessible on the web, like we've got laptops, even on your phone, we've got PWAs now, like web applications are really good and you can build it once, it's cross-platform. However, with the getting the camera to work consistently with each device in the browser and then to append a sort of OCR on top of that without doing additional layers and additional calls, there's a package which name slips my mind, but essentially on rotation, it would just keep spinning. I just couldn't figure it out. It was a bug. So essentially,
Wow.
twist the phone screen and the rotation of the the preview would spin, but then it kept spinning. Some bug, definitely with another hour, I could have figured it out and such, but it was called video clip or something, essentially a web widget to attach to allow the camera and then allow processing on top of it. But in that, I was in my initial research stage. I spent too long on the MVP, and then I just started to look into other avenues. But that was quite a funny bug I ran into along the way.
I've got one on that as well, Seb, where I remember that exact front end, and we only had the selfie camera enabled. So in order to get a bottle, you either had to sort of do this sort of weird turn, or you'd bring the bottles into camera and you'd just be juggling it. So that was quite funny. We never actually knew if it really worked or not.
Yes, user experience problems, you know. I know them well. Yeah, we got about a minute left. I think now's a great time to shut things down. A couple of things I want to talk about at the end of the show briefly before we send you all off to the rest of your day. One of the awesome, GDC is here in town in San Francisco, California. One of the extremely cool demos I saw on the show floor yesterday. In fact, I'm going back to Moscone today to check this out. It's from a company called Movers. They have real-time 3D pose capture, and it uses OpenCV and some Oak cameras. Booth number 1163, if you're here in the area, come check them out at the GDC Expo. It is crazy impressive. Real-time stuff, no markers. They had a dancer in there doing backflips and somersaults, and it was just nailing it. Like, it's super impressive stuff. So I'm going to go talk to them a little bit later today. And if you're at GDC out there in the OpenCV community, come say hi. I'll probably wearing the same thing. I'll be easy to find. I'm the guy with the OpenCV shirt. Probably be wearing some purple sunglasses. Not a tough guy to track down. So if you're there, come find me. I'm going to do a little interview with the Movers folks and a few other people on the show floor today. I got my little microphone and everything. It's going to be fun. Having said that, I think now is a great time to go home. You ready to go home, boss?
All right. Yes. Thank you so much, Seb and James. It was a pleasure seeing you here, and all the best for your app.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us, and we'll see you with the next one.
All right.
Super exciting. We'll talk to you about maybe, the OpenCV conference does need an after party. Maybe we can do some kind of partnership there. I think it could work. Anyway, folks out there watching, thank you so much for joining us again on this beautiful Thursday morning. Take care of yourselves out there. Take care of somebody else if you can, and have a great day wherever you may be.
Yeah. One last thing, sorry. If you're interested in vision language models, I'm actually giving a tutorial or a 3-hour workshop at the Embedded Vision Summit on the 20th of May on vision language models. So if you are visiting, please sign up for that workshop. We'll send you an email about this.
Yeah, we'll drop it in the OpenCV newsletter. Take care out there, folks.
Just a last one from us, sorry. Can we add the download link to the comments or in the
Absolutely, man.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
No problem.
Thanks for having us.
Okay.
Adios, folks.
Thank you.